All right, so I'll call the meeting to order, 6:35 on Monday, June 17th. This is who we are expecting. So we do have Ms. Cook, Mr. Rooney, Mr. Officer, and Mr. Goodney, all unable to join us tonight. Hopefully, we'll be able to coordinate as we get into July and August, but I think the number of meetings that we have to completion is hopefully down to one hand. I know we'll have some invoices after the fact. So first item of business is approval of meeting minutes from June 3rd of 2019. Did anyone have any questions based on what was circulated? I will move that we approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wood. Any further discussion? All in favor? I need you to vote.
Oh, okay, then I'm in favor. Sorry, okay.
5-0. Next is chairman's updates. So after much, as you know, I went from this meeting to the Board of Selectmen's meeting after the last meeting. I didn't expect this, but the date of the kind of grand opening / public safety open house, I don't know what chiefs you want to call it, but the Board of Selectmen asked, and I've worked with the chiefs, it looks like we're going to be on Saturday, October 26th. There was much discussion about having it the weekend of Columbus Day / Heritage Day. Due to logistical concerns, we've nixed that based on discussions with the chief. So it's going to be Saturday, October 26th. I've had some preliminary discussions with Mark about the actual first day of operations from the facility once both departments are in, assuming it's some sort of staged, whether they would do like just a very brief ceremony, but they wouldn't have access to the public on that day. So more to come on that, I think, once we actually have and know when the chiefs will be operating their respective departments in there. Any questions on that? Next item is the firearm system. So I reported at the last meeting that there was some concerns raised during a walkthrough, and we engaged the Services of Code Red to kind of get an independent review to make sure code compliance. Chief Achilles had made his directives very clear that if there's something that's code requires the building to meet code, that it had to go in, versus if there are items of preference, he was going to take it under advisement and make some decisions. I walked the building with the chief and the building commissioner. That was 2 Fridays ago, I think, at this point. We came up with a list of about 4 or 5 items, none of which are sort of what I'll call game changers. Some were swapping out a device, like removing. I believe we removed this carbon monoxide detector from the police sally port. We will have running engines and replaced with heat detector, which is what we all likely have in our garages. Those are simple examples, but I think I just wanted to bring that up, that I think that item is coming to a closure. I think we can expect a change order in the coming days from context. My guess is, given that we're going to have a 3-week lag between our meetings, that we'll do it on a CCD basis. So that's the authorization that Mark and myself have to authorize the work to be completed. We've told CTA to do this work on a weekend, right? It's just going to be pulling, splicing a few extra wires, putting a few extra devices in. So there will be a premium time component, but I think it was the first compliment CTA had given the town on this project, but they actually thanked the proactiveness when we were having the scheduled dialogue of the chief and the department for identifying these issues now, because they said that most of these issues are identified at the final walkthrough, which, if you flash forward to kind of end of July, which is when the fire department walkthrough is scheduled for, we would have been scrambling for some pretty, albeit simple fixes. So thanks to the chief and the building commissioner for kind of coming up with a practical approach, and Jeff and Ellen are now taking that and working with CTA on kind of next steps. Any questions on that? Monthly project-related updates. I have no further updates on those because I'm going to kind of meld them with 4 and 5 of the agenda. Project timeline. So the reason we actually were starting a couple minutes late is we've now had 4 or 5 conversations with CTA since our last public meeting 2 weeks ago to try to finalize the substantial completion date As you recall, there were multiple items that were what I'll call tentative, and they didn't want to hedge certain bets, and they're related to 2 windows, booking and dispatch, and the infamous fire department kitchen sink. The fire department kitchen sink is actually arriving on site this week, is our understanding, and the booking windows have, and dispatch windows also, we have good delivery lead times, is what our understanding is. There was a lot of iterations of the schedule, but I guess getting to the punchline, what CTA has proposed is a August 13th substantial completion date, which is, I believe, a Tuesday. Is we're right now had verbally agreed to August 1st. If you recall, they had asked for $62,000 to get us to August 1st. We have gotten them to a position of $50,000 through August 13th. And they have been put on notice that if the committee is open to receiving a change order to that effect, they know that the town is going to accept absolutely no excuses going forward in terms of, we'll exercise, obviously the rights we have in our contract. Looking at that date, it still would give us about 2 weeks prior to school starting to kind of work out some of the kinks, the traffic and all of that, et cetera, because there will obviously be a lot of new traffic patterns going to that site. Paving, I think, is supposed to be done in and around July 4th, so and phasing of this can start to be planned well in advance of the departments actually occupying the building, but that's where we're at. So know that a lot of work went in, both from the town side, the Context team and the Vertex team, the number back and forth after kind of the walkthrough of change this, what happens, etc. I personally, witnessing and listening to kind of the dialogue between the parties that are advising us, think that this is the fairest way forward. But I am only one vote here. What I would say is if we don't agree with this, we're not going to discuss kind of what our counter proposal would be. We'd have to call a separate meeting. We'll do an executive session so that we don't jeopardize our own bargaining position. But if the committee is comfortable with this path forward, obviously you can ask questions, et cetera, especially of the team we have here, and I'll actually ask them to kind of offer any thoughts they have on that and recommendations based on what they know. That we would make some sort of motion here tonight so that once they formalize the change order in the coming days, that Mark could then execute it knowing that the committee is behind kind of the content in it. But so just to remind everyone, it would be Tuesday, August 13th at a cost of $50,000, which would get us from the July 9th date to the August 13th date. So I guess I'll kind of turn to Jeff and Kevin and Bill and Ellen. Any comments you have on that?
That was a good summary. At the beginning of this whole thing, Kevin and I talked about it at the very beginning, when we hadn't seen any numbers yet, but we were sort of throwing on what we would expect to see, and I've typically seen anywhere from $45,000 to $50,000 per month on general conditions costs recently. So if we're talking about just a little bit over a month now, from July 10th to August 13th, it's in the right ballpark, at least from what I expected. The 62 was earlier submitted for even less time was, I thought, way too high. So I think it's, as Jason said, I think it's a fair position to take.
Did they submit a final schedule, Jeff? Are you satisfied?
They've
with
submitted
it?
a schedule, which is the thing that we've been haggling over for the last better part of a week, or maybe a little over a week. Finally, after a lot of pushing, prodding, and meetings, they finally gave it to us, and we went through that in excruciating detail with them on the phone as well as separately on our own. And I think that we're able to satisfy that all of the questions that we've had were answered. That's all I want to say on that. I think it's their schedule, so we'll let them run with it. But now, to Jason's point, they've shown us everything that we're waiting for. Everything else that they have to do is in their hands. So if they can't make it work, that's all them. And you guys have contractual tools in your toolkit.
And they've been made very well aware of the conflicting schedule issues with the school next door that we don't want to be doing this at the end of August.
Yeah. We talked about doing things like, can we get the furnishings in place early enough that rooms will be punched out and cleaned so that furniture can be dropped in before substantial completion, which is often the case when we've got a project that's ending up, furniture doesn't go in until after substantial completion. So if we had to wait till after the 13th in order to get furniture in place, that would reduce that 2-week time frame. So we're looking at asking CTA, where can we go and punch out, room by room if we have to get things ready for furnishings, which is, obviously more of a burden on us, but I'm certainly willing to go out there and punch it when they've got things done in order to get this thing sped up to the point that you can actually, if you needed to, take occupancy on the 14th.
Are we gonna incur any fees from the furniture companies for going later or anything like that? Or-
Currently, right now, we have a fee coming from WB Mason. I believe the amount is $2,600 for holding furniture. We got that the other day. Still trying to confirm the delivery date. However, Bill and I are trying to get them in sooner if we can, without incurring any delay. But like, we have the delivery up to dispatch equipment, hopefully coming, it was this week that we're looking for, next week? Next week, so that's being taken care of. The problem we have when you start moving all the furniture is you're digging the walls, doing this, so Vertex is also gonna bring in a third individual to strictly punch out while Bill is finishing completion of the job, so he'll be providing his punch list, providing that to Context, to then provide it to CTA to run parallel with each other. So we're just trying to get ahead of everything and not wait till the last minute, because we don't want to delay them in any way, shape, or form from getting to this date, so.
So the big thing right now is permanent power to the building, because a lot of these companies, their fees are based on having access to an elevator. So that's not CTA's fault. We're relying on National Grid to get power. They should be complete by the end of this week. So after this week, they'll be able to use the elevator. So.
Yeah, it's,
What's the confidence level that this will be completed by the 13th? Do you guys feel? I know it's an agreement, but I mean,
I feel like much better than I did last month when we asked the same question.
Okay.
I think both sides, especially this side, has shown a willingness to assist CTA in getting to the finish line by not caving in, but seeing what's real and working with the team we have here to come to a solution. And right now, we've worked very hard to get them everything back that they needed. And we're closely working with them on any changes that might pop up, so they don't impact this project.
Any other questions on that? I mean, the only thing we didn't discuss, Jeff, is I think part of the general conditions was assuming control of the meters. So they still have control of the meters.
Okay.
Would you, we haven't broached that topic with them. Do you
Yeah.
recommend we just let that continue with this?
You're gonna pay, the town's gonna pay for it one way or the other. You're not really seeing the cost on a monthly, daily basis from CTA, whereas you would if you'd be paying those bills directly. And you wouldn't see it until, based on the timing of these things, you probably wouldn't see the bill until after the project's done. So you couldn't say to them, hey, you guys are, leaving the barn door open and running the AC all day, or something like that. So I'd probably just keep it as part of their cost.
It is gonna be a warm month, likely.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to run the dehumidifiers to do flooring, so there's gonna be a lot of electricity used in the last month project. Probably not in your best interest to take it over at this point.
So, is there any objection to kind of the proposed deal on the table, August 13th, $50,000 additional cost? So I will move that the committee authorize the town administrator to execute a change order for $50,000 with a substantial completion date of August 13th, 2019. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
That's a hard date.
I think we can make sure the wording
Pretty
is
sure we
very
can hold
clear.
their, no pun intended, their feet to the fire.
Well, yeah.
Been holding out.
You're
on
waiting for
that.
that
So when we write the change order, it'll literally change
Kevin's
the
gonna show
contractual
them what happens when they don't
end date,
comply.
the substantial completion date to the 13th from the 10th, so that'll be written into the contract essentially.
And we've been one other thing I should mention is we've been working with the inspectional agents in town to make, they had some pretty generous times that they were giving them. We're trying to tighten some of that a little bit. They think it's about 4 days per department, so fire, plumbing, electrical, and building. Again, this is where some of their complementary nature came out in terms of saying that the town has been walking the building so much that they've been identifying issues real time as opposed to on final inspection. So, all right, there's a motion on the table. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Carries unanimously. All right, change order ownership. Given the number of conversations we had to have on the schedule and trying to get that locked down, we did not have the change order ownership. So that's on Kevin's agenda. I think you said this week. And then, so I'll have a report back to the committee next meeting on that. I guess design team and project manager, any updates from you that you think the committee, we don't have a formal report obviously because it's an interim meeting, but anything the committee should be aware of, any concerns you've seen other than timing or any accomplishments that are worth noting?
No, I'll leave it up to Bill to give the accomplishments that they've done. So when you go there,
Any progress on the canopies, Bill, at all? That's-
Yes.
We have concrete.
Yeah, so they got the second pour was complete today, which means they're now ready for steel. I didn't get the chance to confirm when that was coming. I assume sometime this week they will try and get at least the columns erected, which will then allow for their final pour because the detail cost for that to be encased. It's already been talked about with the site contractor that they are going to, it's possibly tomorrow, they're gonna start grading in, and based on the asphalt vendor's recommendation, they're gonna bring everything up to like kind of like a 5-foot radius around, and they can put all the binder in by hand. So in terms of doing nothing or telling them not to worry about it, everything will be ready for right now. What's being proposed as sometime during the week of the 4th of July. So Mark worked with the school, so he was able to get access through the school for the time that they are going to be paving. So it's just a matter of nailing down that date till I call it now. Overall progress, I mean, the only rough sort of work that's continuing right now is all of the low voltage and electrical wiring up above the ceiling. Other than that, everything else is starting, it's all finishes. All the bathrooms upstairs are all complete. They just need their final coat of paint, and then they just need cover plates. So there are a lot of rooms like that, particularly on the second floor. The first floor is a little bit further behind. All the walls are painted, but in terms of the floor finishes, they're a little bit further behind just because of all the work that's going on overhead. So it has been started, but I would assume probably in a week and a half, I think all the flooring except the epoxy floor should be done in the whole building. So I think right now they have scheduled for the end of June, like the 28th, I think, the 27th and 28th to do the epoxy floors. And they're going to start the booking area, the cell area, and then go to the apparatus bed. So, and then it'll just, after that, it'll be sort of working on the touch-up stuff, fine-tuning of everything, and once we get power, turn all the systems on, all the testing, and start up. So they're moving along. They're finally, it looks a lot different than it did even from the last time you guys were there, because there's just more finishes in place now, so it's starting to look more finalized.
They're moving.
Yeah, I mean,
most of July is testing, right? It's making sure things work, right? As opposed to, there's not a lot of hard
Yeah,
construction going on.
no, there won't be a lot of, it'd be very minimal, depending on, the fire alarm. I mean, that'll be the last real kind of hard work that they're doing. But just the site, the grading of the site, just, you can now see how the entrance is taking shape, and it just makes the site look a lot cleaner, so.
Any questions on any of that? I should have mentioned when we were talking about the schedule, it's actually a good thing, is we're requiring CTA to send the town Context and Vertex a weekly schedule going forward, so that we don't have the issue we had last time where we couldn't even actually release their check. They actually did do that. They're 1-for-1 right now since we put that requirement in place, and I think Jared's doing a good job of outlining kind of where things have, if anything has slipped, where it slipped, but there actually wasn't anything that slipped last week, and if anything, stuff got accelerated, so. Any other questions for the design team before we go into the change orders? So given that the committee, I fully realize you all got them this afternoon from CTA, but given that the committee just got them tonight, they all did have some time to review them, but we might spend just a little more time than we normally do just understanding some of the background. So I'll start with PCO 87R3 building sign revision. So previously we had authorized the actual procurement of the sign so that it could be built. That was $561
Approximately, yeah.
for the change of the sign design. Can you just walk through the electrical that's now bringing it up to about 6,000?
Yeah, so we changed the electrical fixtures that were originally specified for the sign, which is a backlit lettering, sign lettering. So the letters themselves are essentially the fixture. So we removed that, and then with the new sign, it needs to be lit with light shining on it, which was approved by the town. And that requires the ground mounted lighting that we have now. So this added cost is to put in the new ground mounted lights, minus the credit for wiring the original signage, because the electrician didn't know any of that light. There was really no lighting before. He just ran power to that location, and then the sign got added to that power. So now the electrician's going and putting his underground in with the new site lighting and purchasing these fixtures.
So what's the breakout labor and materials here? Like, is most of this labor or most of it materials, or is it 50-50?
I don't know.
Labor, it's mostly
Mostly
labor.
labor, that's what I would assume.
So should we just be doing this on a CCD?
We can. They did reduce the number of hours that, because we were, obviously this has been outstanding for a while, mostly because we've been battling over this electrical piece. So we can certainly track their hours rather than doing it on a lump sum basis.
Vertex?
Sorry. So, no, I think doing it on TNN would be fun. Well,
Yeah,
Is there a way we can
So
get
far we've
website
been,
though? I don't want to.
So far we've been, and to that point exactly, I think so far we've been pretty good on T&Ms. We've
Mhm.
usually undershot or
Yes.
come right up to the number that we've had before. So,
I think if the language is in there like the others, T&M not to exceed, that's why, you know, we make sure we're tracking it, and it's either, it won't exceed the cost that's in front of you now.
So if I made a motion to make this T&M not to exceed the amount on the page, that would,
we would issue a CCD and would take it off
Pull
of
it
this
out.
change order, but, yeah.
We'd still
that
give you
would-
the approval tonight.
That would give them the approval to do it.
does anyone have any thought? I don't know, I'm a big fan of the CCDs ever since it started dropping, but, any other questions on that? All right, so PCO 124, air compressor, $776 and change.
This is a code required item that was added when we received the submittal for this particular piece, and it was been months, I guess, since we originally approved the submittal, and now they've decided to send us the PCO for the added cost of this item. Now, in their defense, it was not specifically enumerated on the bid documents that they needed this particular item, even though it is a code requirement, but GDD alerted them to that, so that it wasn't something that they had to procure after the fact. It was just part of the same procurement. But it is a little late to be getting the PCO at this point. So that's, I mean, it is legitimate, it's just late.
So, do we expect another PCO due to the movement of the SCBA compressor?
This doesn't have, so
It
there's
just
two
reminded
compressors.
me,
This is,
it's not on your list here.
what's that?
It's not on your list anywhere here.
That's right. This, we weren't expecting to get this charged, honestly, because it's been so long since we approved the compressor. this is a completely different compressor. This is the main building compressor. So, you know, when we reviewed the submittal, we were either expecting it to come in right then and there or shortly thereafter, but not months later. So that's why it wasn't on the backup with other ones that we were tracking. But it doesn't have anything to do with the.
But I guess, do we expect another PCO or change order to move the compressor in the way that the fire department asked?
No,
I'm
I
talking
understand
about
that there was not going to be any additional costs for that.
Because we caught it early enough?
I think so. I only
Is
do
it
remember.
done?
No.
No, it's not done.
I think an RFP was issued in case we thought there might be. There shouldn't be, and if there is, it should be minimal.
That was my understanding, is that when it was discussed,
Right.
it was discussed in such a way that we could do it without any real added cost.
Right, because they had already pulled the electrical, they just needed to pull it back up, which is,
Like the wire was spooled down
Right.
below, and all they needed to do was
And they-
unspool it and
they
tie it
never-
into the
yeah.
thing that was up above.
and they never did the fresh air intake, which they own per contract,
Okay.
so.
All right. I get they're completely unrelated, but given the amount of
Yeah,
conversation.
no, it's a
we
good
had
point.
on that-
I was not on the same page.
Because I think one of the things you'll note in Ellen's memo now, they are outlining everything they know about that's coming, just so the committee, and I didn't see that, that's fine. Any questions on the air compressor? Golf access road temporary fencing.
So prior to, not what I was originally assuming this was for when it first came through, but this is not the orange fence. This is additional fencing that was put in by CTA along the main access driveway that takes you from Quarterville up to basically the Golf Access Road, that on our original phasing plans, when we determined the phasing for the building, we had shown essentially that access area becoming part of the site. So we didn't have another piece of fencing there to create this sort of driveway. So if you go out there now, you'll see there's a green scrim on the fence by the playing field and then another fence further in. When it was originally discussed to do this new phasing approach months and months and months ago, the assumption that everybody made in our discussions was that CTA was going to move their fence. They chose not to move the fence. They chose to get this additional piece of fence because in their minds, they were still trying to secure the whole site, even though golf still had access through it. So this is the cost for that additional inboard piece of fence.
Shouldn't this be part of general conditions? Or are you saying?
That was the original argument that was made, that they should have owned it. I think that was the original argument.
Correct, that was the original argument. So there's the fence that's right at the school right now. So that is the fence that they're claiming that they owned. And they added the fence to, basically, they thought that the pass-through was gonna be through the school. So therefore, they theoretically wouldn't need that fence. They would put it where they have it now, which is right up against where the carport is. So, because they didn't have that, in order to cut off the site where they could have their Connex boxes, they had the fence there when you first came in on the right-hand side, and then carried it over to the Golf Access Road, which again, based off of the original phasing plans, they're certainly entitled to something. So they, I think it's what, 575 feet of fence, give or take, so.
Okay.
But that's just for phasing, right? It's not
It
remaining
was
in
to
place.
maintain golf access in a different way than what was originally proposed. And I think the problem we're all having on this side of the table is that this should have come up when we had that discussion
Phase.
6 months ago, whatever it was, to where maybe it's longer.
Yeah, so.
So that we would have known about this additional cost, we could have talked about other opportunities, what if they moved to the fence, all these other things could have been discussed. We lost that opportunity because we're just seeing the PCO now for something that's.
So do we have a timeliness clause?
That's what we were discussing earlier.
So it originally came up, they presented us with a PCO for what they were labeling Golf Access Road for $30,000, which we immediately, as a team, rejected and said this is ridiculous. So we think that this is a way for them to try and get something out of it. But to Jeff's point, you know, this is something that should have been brought up a week or two after we rejected that original piece.
I mean, the invoice, I think I saw something was dated in February. It's now the end of June. One final question on this one. If they had completed the golf phase 1 on time, and we hadn't kind of let them, would we have seen this?
I mean, I'm not sure, my original point was, even if they had golf access, right, you'd wanna have that fence
Front of the building?
up at the front of the building there to keep the car from going in.
I think it goes back to the original conversation we had, which was if they're gonna now allow golfers to come into the site, which is pretty much more hours than they're operating, than the contractor's actually operating up there, why wouldn't they just move the fence they already have to the new location? Because essentially that gate is pretty much open, you know, from the early part of the morning till the late evening.
Right.
So why do they even need it? My point.
I was just about to say, the last few weeks, I've not seen a secure fence.
Yeah.
There's yellow tape between two sections.
Yeah. And that was another point we talked about earlier today about,
It's not a
well,
secure
they're not even
site.
secure, like what's the fence for
Yeah.
at this point? So,
A lot of
all
liability.
good, again, I think this meeting in particular is a little, normally would have liked to have had a little bit more time with these before we can present them to you. These are ones that we have negotiated and are potentially ready for your approval. But I don't necessarily know that we're, I don't know,
All right, so
thrilled with them yet.
So I'll just throw this out there. I'm not planning to move for approval of this change order tonight. Any thoughts or further discussion on it? All right, booking voice port, PCO 134, $1,193.50.
This goes into the window that's down by booking. We never really had a way for you to speak through the window. It just, you know, you sat behind the window and there was a gap underneath of it, but you know, obviously it would have been challenging to hear. So at the time that the window was changed, this was added in to have that speaker. It's actually, in my opinion, a pretty good price for this ability, because one of the things we always have a problem with is speaking through glass. You can do it a lot of different ways. All of them cost more money than this.
It's not a standard piece of glass either.
No, it's not. So, so short of cutting a hole in it, which we don't really want to do for a lot of other security reasons, this is probably the cheapest way to do it. So, you know,
But it meets the needs.
It definitely meets the needs of the department, absolutely.
Any questions on this one? Next one is a credit for PCO 135 fitness room mirrors, $420.82. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. They took out a mirror based on the walkthrough.
This was with the folks that are working on the gym layout, so that was done in combination with them. I think that was the right decision.
Okay. So what I'm going to, we will kind of continue on this, but what I want to do is I want to dispose of the ones they're asking for action on tonight. So I am going to move on PCO 87 R3 building sign revisions that we direct this to be removed from change order 13 and issued instead as a CCD for time and materials not to exceed $6,147.64. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wood. Any further conversation? All in favor? All right, that carries unanimously. I'm then going to move PCO 124 air compressor, PCO 134 booking voice port, and PCO 135 fitness room mirror credit for approval as part of change order 13. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wood. Any further conversation? All in favor? All right, that carries unanimously. And then, do you want us to formally reject the temporary fencing, or do you want to go back and bring?
No, let us continue to hash that out.
Okay, but you remove it from change order 13. Okay.
And Jason, pursuant to your earlier vote about the schedule, given that that PCO probably will get rewritten fairly shortly, that's probably going to be incorporated in change order 13 as well.
That's fine. Yeah, and I talked to Mark about that already, that
Yep.
if the committee voted on it, he'll deal with that. Signer, I guess he's out this week, so if it's ready before then, Vanessa can sign it. I guess just really quick run through of the remaining change orders.
The best way to put it is that a lot of them were previously approved on CCDs with time and materials that we haven't got slips for many of these. We're still debating PCO 76, although we believe it should be at no cost, so that's, it may not reappear, depending on where CTA takes that. The Stair 2 sprinkler head, which we've discussed now for a number of months, we did get the response from the state. The state basically kicked it back to the town, local jurisdiction to decide what they want to do in working with building inspector and getting all the information that she would like. Basically, it turned out that we're not going to pursue the sprinkler head options, so we're going to go with the fire shutter option, which we believe is going to be cheaper than what is currently shown as PCO 115R1. But we haven't got the final pricing yet from CTA. We did reach out to make sure that it was available in a reasonably short period of time and gave CT what we thought was all the information they needed, but we still haven't, that was Thursday of last week, so we haven't yet received.
So your general expectation is that we could do it on a CCD basis?
Correct. Our hope is that if in fact CTA and their subcontractor will procure the item that we've researched, that the town could handle it similarly that we've done before, and we've released them to go and buy that item specifically just for that specific piece of the price, so that we can start the clock on the procurement and then hash out the details and the pricing for everything else while that's being procured.
Given that this is the only one that really could require action, sounds like, that you're aware of,
We could do it as a CCD. It doesn't necessarily need your vote. You could vote on it.
I guess, I think just to be safe, just in case the cost comes back at a number we're not happy with, I think it's better that we just give you direction tonight so
Sure.
that we don't have to call some sort of emergency meeting on July 4th to
That makes sense.
get a sprint, because otherwise what we just agreed to on the August 13th date, they can't move in without this being dealt with.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
So,
What's a fire shutter window?
So it's basically, oh, I thought you would have one here. It's basically a rolling shutter. Normally it stays up tight in its box. If you've been to someplace, a ticket counter or something like that, they have something that will roll down. It's the same thing, only this thing is rated for fire prevention. And it will have a couple of things tying it into a sprinkler system, fire alarm, and most importantly, it will have a fusible link that will be on the outside of the building. And because this fire shutter is intended to protect the stair from a fire from the roof below, which is really the big key to getting the building inspector on board with this idea, that fusible link will trigger the shutter to close. It's a manual shutter, so you have to roll it back up after the fact, but if it does close, it's probably going to close for a good reason. So normally it will stay up, there'll probably be tracks on the side, and there'll be a box that you can see, so it's a little bit less attractive than the interior sprinkler head, which was what we wanted to do, but probably not as unattractive as an exterior sprinkler head. And we'll have it painted, because that wall is blue right now, so we'll have it painted.
that window is pretty high.
It's also high, yeah, so I don't think it's gonna be a big deal once it goes in and everybody gets used to it.
It's on the inside, right?
Yeah, it's on the inside.
All right, so I guess I know there's a difference of opinion between context and the building commissioner, but I think this is a good example of, even if you have a different opinion, they're working towards actually, sounds like a better solution, a safe solution, and potentially a more cost-effective solution. So appreciate everyone working together and respect everyone's different opinion. So what I would like to do for this is have the committee authorize myself and Mark to negotiate with this team once we get the details. I don't want to specify an amount just to help our bargaining position, but just in case it exceeds the thresholds that you've already authorized on this one particular item, given that it is a gating issue. So I'll move to that extent. Is there a second?
So we authorize you to expend more than $10,000.
I would just say authorize us, to negotiate on
Final price.
the final price for PCO 115R1. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
And that's no matter which direction we go for going.
Sounds like we're
fire.
going in the shutter.
There's only one
direction.
direction at this point, it's just a matter of the final price.
The shutter is the only thing we can get building commissioner and
Or-
architect to agree on,
Okay.
so. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? All right,
So the last one on the list, just want to mention that when that first came in, this is a request from police department, and it was probably a good request, so that when it's, the driveway next to the carport is plowed, the plows don't hit the building, so we're gonna curve the curbing just slightly out away from the building. And when the original document was done, it required, we got the price back, was for custom radius corners, and we said, no, that's not gonna work. So they're doing it with the standard radiuses that we already own. So it's just, they're gonna increase a little bit in the straight curbing, but this price should go down because they don't have to custom cut anything in the field. So this one's not ready yet. It's definitely something that we would like to do. So we'll come back to the committee, but it'll be hopefully a lower price.
I think you just do this one on the CCD, it's already within the approval threshold, so once you
Sure,
get
yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, this one certainly won't affect the timing on the project either. The curbing's all readily available, so it's just a matter of getting the linear footage straight that they need. And when they do the rest of the curbing, this will go in, so it won't affect anything.
Okay, any questions on any of those? All right, we will move on to invoices for approval. First one is Vertex, invoice of $30,241.84 for the month of May. Any questions for Vertex? My only comment is when we process this, it sounds like you're getting the bills for some commissioning. We have two different line items, so I know John at some point is gonna call me and say he's out of whack on his statement of work and what we, because the commissioning is a separate budgetary line item, so I just would ask you two to work with him to figure out how to, the town will issue one check, assuming the committee approves it, so we just need to allocate it within the budgetary line item so we don't show variances.
Okay.
Are there any questions on this for Vertex? Then I'll move, approve that invoice as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wood. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, that carries unanimously. So there are two packets from Vertex, because one came in the day of the last meeting and I wasn't comfortable bringing it forward. So it is for a Signet invoice dated May 9th of 2019 for $82,113.02, which is a security system progress payment. I'm going to lump these all together unless anyone had any specific questions on what was in the packet. Then we had the second letter, which is for Signet invoice number 2, which is dated June 7th of 2019. UTS 2 construction invoices, one dated February 8th, one dated May 31st, and a context invoice for $46,700. The main delta between their normal is some of the addendums that we previously approved. So I guess on those 5 specific invoices, are there any questions for the Vertex team? All right, then I will move that we approve those invoices as presented.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wood. Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, carries unanimously. Meeting schedule. So we are currently scheduled to meet on the 8th of July, the 22nd of July, and the 5th of August. I guess we can decide in July what we want to do about August, given that that looks to be the move-in month. There any questions on the meeting schedule? All those meetings are here, by the way. Town hall is not available tonight. It's due to planning board.
This is a reminder, I will not be here for your next meeting. The 8th, sorry.
8th. Did I say the 9th?
No, you said the 8th.
Okay.
Keep thinking that.
Yes. The 9th was an infamous date at one point in time with this project. Any questions on the meeting schedule? Nope. All right. Any other business? Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll move that we adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, we're adjourned.